everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Today we're talking about the Norwegian itineraries on Disney Cruise Line. So there's 2 itineraries, there's a bunch of ports and a bunch of fun that I will be getting into today.
I'm Christina. I'm a traveler, a planner, and most importantly, a mom. I'm sharing my best tips to make traveling as a family a little less stressful. So put down your phone, pack your bags, and let's showcase the world.
So like I said, I'm talking about Norway today, so I have a few things that I just need to let you know up front. I apologize in advance. I have my notes in front of me. I usually just have a few bullet points. I do them mostly from memory because the itineraries don't change too much year over year, and there's multiple sailings, so I do have some clients sailing on different itineraries and I get to know them a little bit better. But Norway, there are 2 sailings per year, not just 2 itineraries, 2 sailings. So each itinerary only has 1 sailing and they change year after year after year. So I have to keep learning them. I don't know it as well as everything else from memory. So I do have to look at my notes. They are right here. So hopefully it's not gonna be super annoying with me looking at my notes because they're right in front of me. But I do have to look at them. I also apologize for my pronunciation. So despite that, this is my #1 bucket list item, is to do a Norwegian cruise. Disney has these 2 itineraries. They also have similar itineraries on Royal Caribbean and Norwegian, and if you're not traveling with children, I would recommend doing the Viking ocean cruise version of the Norwegian fjords because that's where they're from. They're really good at those, and they have a ton of itineraries to choose from. So if these itineraries don't necessarily sound like something that interests you, or and you're not traveling with kids, definitely check those out. If you're traveling with kids, obviously Disney is the best, and these itineraries are fantastic and really fun as well. So if you're interested in learning more about each individual port, I'm just going to kind of do an overview. If you're interested in learning more, please, I would love to hear from you. I have a PDF that I can put together for you. I can jump on a call to discuss these ports with you, but in the essence of time, I'm not going to go super into every port. So like I said, there are 2 sailings and each sails once per year. So if you want to take the 7-night Norwegian fjords from Dover, you're going to want to book that as soon as it becomes available. So like I said, there's only one of these sailings per year. So the 7-night Norwegian fjords from Dover, if you're interested in these, you want to book them really early because they do book up. So you leave Dover, which is in England, which is about an hour south of London. So you fly into London, take the train or the bus down to Dover, leave from Dover. You spend your first day in Amsterdam, second day at sea. Then you end up in Nordfjordeid. I'm sorry, I told you this is going to be terrible. Then your next day is in Alisund, Norway, and then Stavanger, Norway. Then you're at sea, and then you're back to Dover. So obviously Amsterdam for your first day is a really fun city with a ton to do. There are excursions that go outside the city to different towns. There's pottery, there's cheese, there's farm visits, there's all sorts of windmills, tulips, all of that kind of stuff if you leave Amsterdam. But there's so much to do in Amsterdam that if you've never been, just stay in the city, do a canal boat tour. A lot of people like to see the red light district. There's the Van Gogh Museum. The most popular is the Anne Frank Museum in Amsterdam. There's a wooden shoe excursion where you get to make your own wooden shoes. But my personal favorite thing to do in Amsterdam is to get a stroopwafel. It is like a very thin, like waffle cone size waffle, and they put caramel in it, and it's just so delicious. So if you do nothing else in Amsterdam, get a stroopwafel. Okay, then you have your day at sea, and you're kind of going through the fjords. The fjords are kind of like fingers, so you go in and out of the different fjords. You see all sorts of waterfalls and really cool geological things. And then you have a day in, Nordfjordeid, and it's a Viking town. It has the largest surviving Viking ship, so that's a really cool thing to check out. And then you have all sorts of fun adventure activities like glacier hikes and kayaking and boat tours. You can also check out a stave church. So if you've ever been to the Norway Pavilion in Disney World, they have the replica stave church. The one that inspired it is you can visit it from this port. Then you end up in Alisund, and that is very big on troll lore, the fairy tale of trolls. There's also kayaking and boat tours there, but there's a living history museum that kind of goes over, it's not one era, it's set up so that you can visit different eras of Norwegian history. So from the Vikings to they're not called colonists in Norway, but that time period. And the cool thing about this living history museum, if you visit with Disney Cruise Line, is on an Elsa visit this living history museum. So apparently Arendelle is nearby Alisund, Norway, so they stop by. Your next day is in Stavanger, Norway. There is an Iron Age farm there. There's catamarans where you get to go on the fjords to the waterfalls, and then there's an amusement park. It's a teddy bear themed amusement park that is really popular excursion in Stavanger. So that's the 7 night. The 10 night is again once a year, but it goes to the Norwegian fjords and it goes to Iceland. So this one is really, really cool if you are not from the New England area, and you it's a really quick flight to Iceland from Boston, so it's a very popular destination. But if you've never visited, this is a really cool way to get to visit it. It departs from Copenhagen, which is again one of those things that's number 1 on my bucket list. I did a report on Denmark in the 4th grade, and I've wanted to visit since then. Why I didn't go when I was living in London, I couldn't tell you, but you leave from Copenhagen. Your first day is in Stavanger, Norway, which we just talked about. Your next night is in Bergen, and Bergen, Norway is basically like stepping into the Norwegian Pavilion at Epcot with the different color houses, so much so that I had a friend, before I was booking destinations other than Disney World, go to Norway, and she posted a picture from Bergen, and I got a little upset she didn't book her Disney vacation with me, and then I realized she wasn't in Disney World, she was actually in Norway. That's how close it looks to the Norway Pavilion. So that's Bergen, and then you have a day at sea. Then you have a day in, oh, my Iceland is just as bad as my Norwegian, in Akureyri. There's a Y in there, but the Y's aren't pronounced in Norwegian, something like that. So it's spelled Akureyri, and that's in Iceland. And then you have an overnight in Reykjavik. So you have a day in Reykjavik, the ship stays in port there, and then you have another day in Reykjavik. You have a day at sea. Then you have a day in Kirkwall, Scotland, which is in the Orkney Islands. And then you have a day at sea, and then you end in Dover. So you're leaving Copenhagen and you end in Dover. So it's a really cool, unique itinerary. A lot of fun. So we already talked about things you can do in Stavanger. In Bergen, I think just walk around the city. You really don't need to do an excursion in Bergen, but you could also, if you're interested, do a farm visit or hiking. In Akureyri, in Iceland, the botanical gardens are super popular there. You can visit Santa's house, which if you have little ones, that probably is an amazing excursion. You can do a culinary coastline, so catch your fish and then see how they prepare it. There's a lot of different excursions that have to do with herring in this port. There's nature baths, whale watching. You can take boats out to the islands, or horseback riding. There's tons tons of options there. And then you end up in Reykjavik, so you have 2 days to pick excursions in Reykjavik if you want to do excursions both days, or if you want to venture off on your own one day or stay on the ship one day, that's totally fine. But there's the Blue Lagoon, the Golden Circle, kind of those Reykjavik staples. You can go on a glacier safari, horseback riding. There's excursions out to the volcano, or there's excursions out to the glaciers. There is one excursion where you get to go on a seaplane and do both the volcano and the glacier. And then my personal favorite there is the puffin watch. So this is prime puffin season, that the time of the year that this leaves, in August. So prime puffin season, this is what I'd be on because I love puffins. So that would be a really fun excursion for me. And then you have your next day in Scotland, and that's in Kirkwall. And this is the Orkney Islands are really cool because they have this varied history, because they have the Norwegian influence, they have the Scottish influence, they have the English influence. So it's just like this mashup of cultures that makes it super, super unique. The Vikings were in this part of Scotland until the 15th century, which is some of the latest Vikings being in someplace other than Scandinavia. So really cool history here. It was super important in both World War I and World War II. So you have all of these cultures that come in to the area in at the turn of the century, and then in the 40s. So just really, really cool history here. There's some places that you can visit where there's only 2 people who live on this island, and then during tourist season there's a ton of people, but they're just very, very small communities. So it's really not someplace you'd get to see on a lot of different itineraries. It's kind of a hidden gem, so really cool that Disney goes to visit. They have these ancient standing stones similar to Stonehenge. They have archaeological museums. They have these dramatic cliffs that are like the Cliffs of Moher. You have bird watching, so the puffins and all sorts of birds. You have whiskey tours. So just really a cool port that is unlike anything else. So really unique. This is a really, really unique itinerary. You're not going to see it on other cruise lines. So definitely, if you have 10 nights to visit the Norwegian fjords and Iceland, I would definitely check it out. I prefer this one. I don't know if I would necessarily do it because doing 3 nights in Iceland isn't super appealing to me, because that's to me a separate trip in and of itself. But I wouldn't want to do Norway and not go to Bergen, so the 7-night from Dover doesn't stop in Bergen, and that would be someplace I'd really want to go. So if neither of these itineraries, again, sound like something that you want or is exactly what you're looking for, but you really want to do a Norwegian cruise, I'd be happy to talk about the other itineraries on other cruise lines, because I do book more than just Disney. But this video series is about Disney Cruise Line, so we went through everything. So thank you guys so much for joining me, and I'll see you real soon.
Need help planning your next family vacation? Visit us at showcasetheworld.com to request a quote or schedule a free vacation consultation. Want more great travel tips? You'll find those there too.